we introduced the topic of Tadhitaha affixes with the Adhikara Sutram 4.182 Samarthanam Prathamadva. That Sutram sort of set the ground rules for this section in the Ashtadhyayi from 4.182 down prior to 5.3.1. But being an Adhikara Sutram, it does not prescribe any operation. It's only a governing rule. It helps us in applying the rules contained in this section, starting from 4.182 down prior to 5.3.1. Now we will start taking a look at the rules required to derive the various Tadhitaha forms. When deriving a form, we have to ask three questions. First one is, what is the affix? It's kind of obvious. We need to know what the affix is. Second is, which Prakriti can take the affix? Prakriti means like the original form, the form before transformation, the form to which the affix is added. So it's like the base which takes the affix. So in step 1 we know the affix. In step 2 we have to ask the question, can any Prakriti, any base take the affix, or are there any restrictions? Sometimes there may be a Ganaha, a group of words. Only those words can take that affix, etc. So we have to investigate which Prakriti is allowed to take that affix. And the third consideration is that in what meaning is the affix being used? What meaning does the affix convey? This third point should not be overlooked. It's obvious that we need to know the affix and the Prakriti, but what happens is that we get all caught up in deriving the form and doing the operations, and we forget to ask exactly what meaning is being conveyed by the derived form. Now, unlike the Krit affixes, which are only used in a limited number of senses, like kartari, karmani, etc., the Tadhita affixes can convey a variety of meanings. So that is what makes the Tadhita affixes interesting, or you can say challenging in a certain way, because it is not obvious what meaning is conveyed by a particular affix. You have to see which sutram prescribes the affix, in which section that sutram is, and from there you have to find out what meaning is being conveyed. So this third point is very important, has to be kept in mind as we study the Tadhita Prakaranam. Okay. With this background, let us begin by taking a look at the sutram which prescribes the default affix for the rules in the section from 4.183 down prior to 4.4.2. Sutram is 4.183 Pragdivyaton. But a simple sutram, Prag Divyataha An Padacheda. Vritti says, Tena Divyati Ityataha Prag Annadhikriyate. The affix an is hereby authorized as the default affix for all the rules from here, that is 4.183 down prior to the sutram 4.4.2 tena divyati khanati jayati jitam. So unless another affix is specifically prescribed, the affix an comes in as the default affix for all the rules in this section from 4.183 down prior to 4.4.2. The word divyataha used in the sutram 4.183 is panchami ekavachanam of divyat. That divyat is a reference to the word divyati used in the sutram 4.4.2. So that is how we know that prior to that occurrence of divyat, which means prior to 4.4.2, this affix an is prescribed as the default. First note here says that the other affixes prescribed in this section from 4.183 down prior to 4.4.2 are apavada, exceptions to the affix an. So an is the default, and any other affix which is prescribed in this section becomes an exception to the affix an. And as already mentioned, in this section, wherever no other affix is specifically prescribed, the affix an comes in by default. Next note says, this is the Adhikara Sutram, a governing rule, which exerts its influence from here, that is 4.183, down prior to the Sutram 4.4.2. Because Sutram says, Pragdivyataha. So that sets the domain of the Adhikara. This is the Adhikara Sutram. It is also a Vidhi Sutram, prescriptive rule, because it prescribes the affix an. So this is like a combination of a Adhikara Sutram and a Vidhi Sutram. Not only that, it may also be looked upon as a Paribhasha Sutram, rule of interpretation, because it tells us to interpret the rules from here, that is 4183, down prior to the Sutram 442, such that if a rule does not prescribe an affix, the affix un should be used as the default. So this is an interesting sutram, which is a Adhikara Sutram. It is also a Vidhi Sutram. It can also be interpreted as a Paribhasha Sutram. Normally a single sutram has only one of these attributes, but this is kind of like a hybrid sutram which has multiple aspects to it. Okay. Now the sutram does not tell us in which meaning the affix un may be used. Those meanings will be listed as we study this section from 4183 down prior to 442. So the affix un may be used to convey various meanings. Let us take one example here. Raghorapatyam Puman Raghavaha. Raghoho apatyam Raghavaha. Male descendant of Raghu. And we're deriving a masculine form here, so it's a male descendant of Raghu. Apatyam does not mean just the first generation, meaning son or daughter. It means any descendant. So a male descendant means it could be son, grandson, great-grandson, great-great-grandson, and so on. So please keep that in mind. Apatyam is not just the first generation, it means any descendant. Now before deriving this form, we will next take the sutram. It states the meaning in which the affix is being used. We said Raghorapatyam. So where did the meaning apatyam come from? That is what we're going to take next. That will be the sutram 4192. Tasyapatyam.